Hello and welcome to Spy Money. I'm going to talk about Forex trading. Everybody has their own way of trading. There are different Forex futures, stocks, equities, options, or whichever. I typically stick to the same trading style that I use for all of them. It's just easier for me. It works for me. I don't use a lot of things the other Forex traders use. I like to be consistent with how I look at the stocks and the currencies or whatever it is that I'm trading. So what I do is I always stick to using the patterns. I try to find like this one had a channel coming down. I've been watching it for a while and been trading it as it goes. And I've also used my fib lines, which I really like. Fib lines just it don't tell you where as far as which direction it's going, but it'll tell you if it's going up, it'll tell you about where it's going to go, the support and resistance lines. So I personally like them. A lot of people don't. I think the majority of the people that don't like them usually just don't know how to use them. And if you don't know how to utilize them, then sometimes you just don't like whatever it is. So for me, I like them. They're on every chart that I have, and it just allows me to know where a stock is potentially going. The other thing I do is whenever I'm charting one out, I use the 1 hour. I don't do very long swings. Usually, what I do is within a week, and a 1 hour chart will typically tell you within a week what you're going to do. Usually within a few days anyway. So on this one, where it's kind of there's a lot of consolidation in it. It was kind of hard to trade. So when it was through here like this, I just stayed out of it. And then sometimes it would drop down. But if we go back here and look, if I had one indicator, it would be the 15 EMA. The 15 is probably the best thing that I use. It is what I look at first before I look at anything else. And if the candles are underneath the 15, then to me it's a short. And if it goes over top of it, then you go long. Now, how it's just kind of consolidating through here, if you look, you will see, it's basically staying about right here and then to about right there. So there's the channel that it's just been going through. So when I see that, I usually just stay out of it, or I will get in here and then sell out here, get back and forth. But this is a small channel, so it's really hard to do one on that. But the 15, if you notice, it's just really kind of staying with the 15. Then all of a sudden it drops down. Well, it'd been nice to have been in right here where it dropped down, but you never know what it's going to do. Where this had this wick that went up and hit the 180, then that's a good sign that you got a lot of sellers up there that are pushing it back down, and so it's just going to take off and go. And as you can see, that's what happened here. Now, it eventually got back over here to where it had a good run up. Now, as soon as it went over this the 15 here, and then it crossed that 50, and when that 15 crossed the 50, that's where I would have been getting in. And when it went up and it started showing it coming down, I'd probably just went ahead and got out and just scalped it. You don't have to go real long on it, but when it got over here and started going up, you can go long. And then when it come up, I already had my channel drawn out, so I know that when it gets up there, I'm usually just going to sell it. I'm not going to wait for it to go up and hope that it goes up, because it'll usually pull back and then it'll come up and hit it again. It usually doesn't just keep going. Don't be greedy with your trades. When it hits something like that and it's on a normal channel like in the past it's hit, then that's what you want to do, is just go ahead and get out. If you got out there and then it kind of bounced down, I would not have been in here. But as soon as I started seeing it drop here and get below this 15, that's when I would have got short in it. And if you'd have got in here, you could have stayed in that all the way down this. Now that is a huge amount of profit that you could have had here. And this is on a Monday, so there's 2 weeks right here that you'd have been in this trade, but you wouldn't have had to do anything. You just set your trailing stop and just let it go. And when it started coming down and got a good ways, you put your stop up here, and then when it come on down, then you can put your stop there and just come on down. When it got here, I mean, you could leave it in there because you got all the profit there, and just put your stop just up above the or below the fib line. So you've got so much profit there that you can afford to lose a little bit right here if you had to, because there's a chance it might just drop down again, which it did. So on the Forex, or actually any of them, that's how I trade it. Today, actually starting Friday, I made more money in a short amount of time than I've probably ever made in Forex. And I've never got the falling knife or anything like that, like people talk about, where it'll drop 100 pips or something. So I usually get base hits on these, but today I did pretty good. I saw when it come down, and I saw this just kind of going across, and as soon as this 15 started cutting across, this was on Friday, I went ahead and got long. And then whenever I got long, I let it run all day, and when it got up here to where I had this resistance line drawn, and the reason I did is because we had a double top. So by having that, let me go back to like a 5-minute chart. Let's see, that would have been right here. So when this started going up and it comes up and touches, I actually got out right on through here because I didn't want to be greedy. I saw it kind of pulling back a little bit, so I got out up here. Not up there, but right here. And as soon as I got out and it came down, I went ahead and waited because it's still above this 15. I went ahead and waited, and it came back up and touched again, and I waited. It came down, and then when it got up in here, I went ahead and went short. Okay, so whenever I went short, and I went ahead, I usually don't do this, but I went ahead and swung it over the weekend. And by swinging it over the weekend, this come over and went all the way down here, and then it come up and hit my trail stop and kicked me out. So I was from up here, I think it was, I think I got in right in here somewhere. It was between 4 and 5 because they close at 5. I think it was about 4 o'clock when I got in it. And then I went ahead and just wrote it down. And when it came up, and I usually put like a 20 pip trail stop on it. So whenever it went down and then it came up the 20 pips, then it kicked myself out. So once that kicked out, then I went ahead and got long again. And by getting long, I bought in here right when it kicked out, and then I went ahead and wrote it all the way up. When it went up through here and got up and then it started dropping right there, I went ahead and sold right on through here when it got below the 15. And then when that happened, I went ahead and got short, and I wrote it all the way down. So when I wrote that down, and it went down here and started coming back up, and when it hit the 15, I got out of it. I wish I'd have got out here, but I didn't. I got out here, and then I went long again. And then when it went up and it started bouncing around, went down, and then went up, and then I got out along through here. And then when that happened, I went ahead and got short again. And I rode that short most of the day, all the way over. And when it started coming back out, I got out and went long again. So what I did was really just watch my 15. If you watch that 15 EMA, and when that candle gets above it, just hop in long. When it gets below it, like up here, then you just go ahead and go short. And that's how I scalped all day. And I made, I did like 65% of my count since Friday, just by doing those trades. And I went in pretty large on them because I felt really comfortable about what it was doing and the way the market was moving. And most people were not making very much money on the market unless they got in puts over the weekend. But most everybody was in calls and really kind of got messed up. I had a lot of calls. So what I ended up doing was going ahead and playing Forex all day. And by doing the Forex, I ended up making a lot more money than what I could have been doing, because the market was just it was consolidating most of the day. To buy options on it was just, to me, was kind of concerning to do it. I did put in a couple buys, but for the most part, I just stayed out of it. And I played on Forex. I played this one, and then I also got into this one here. I'm in this trade now, and I'm short right now. So what I ended up doing was I saw this going up, and then when it started hitting right here, I went ahead and got in because it was getting below the 15. And by looking at the chart, I felt that it was going to have a pretty good pullback. So I went short. It's consolidated a lot and it went up, and I was actually in the hole on it, but I went ahead and held it. And right now it's dropping. And if we go back to the 1 minute, you can see that there's a lot of consolidation right there, but it's trying to go down. Right here, if you look at these long wicks, these are buyers that pushed that up. So the sellers were up here and they dumped a bunch of it, and they just kept on doing it. You can look right here, right there, this one, this one, this one, and this one. The sellers are trying to push this stock down, or the currency down, the Forex. And eventually, it started going back up, and then they started still trying to do it, and they just kept on. So I held into it because I thought that it would sell off. And here it goes. Now it's going. So all the buyers are exhausted. There are no buyers. The sellers are winning now. So they're selling it off, and my account balance is going up right now, which I love. So as this goes red all the way down through there, hopefully it'll be kind of like one of these right here eventually and just really shoot down quick. And if it does, then I make a lot more money. And I'm probably going to ride this all day or all night. I was trying to get to where my fibs are. I don't have them on there yet. So if I can get some days like today, then the Forex was just, it treated me really good. I was real happy with it. But this right here is exactly the way I do every single trade. I do option trading this way. I do futures, the contracts. I do future options, and do equities, penny stocks, anything that I get in. I traded penny stock today too, and I did pretty good on that. So, but I did better on Forex than I did anything today. And I hope it helps you. It's just the way I trade. A lot of people, when they go to Forex, they have a totally different setup that they use. I think that if you stay to the same way all the time and you just master that one strategy, you're going to do good. If this strategy may work for you, it may not. Just because I'm doing it don't mean you should. But find something that works for you and tweak it and make it to where you understand it. Like on some of these, some people will use an 8 EMA. I like a 15 because it just gives a little bit more time for the candles to stay above it. An 8 will be up in here somewhere, and a lot of times you'll get out of a trade too quick, where the 15 allows you to stay in it a little bit longer. And then if you go to like the 5 minute, the 5 minute will make you just stay in the trade. And then if you go to 1 hour, you can see if you got in here, you'd never got out of it. But if you'd been on the 1 minute and 5 minute, you'd kept getting out of it. So if you're going to trade longer term, you can go to the 1 hour, or you can go to a 4 hour, depending on what you want to do. If you were following this on a 4 hour, then you got in down here and just took off. See, now today I'm scalping, so I'm not going to do a 4 hour. I'm going to go to a 1 minute and a 5 minute. And I'm making money off of this little drop right here. So you don't have to stay in long unless you just don't like to scalp. If you just want to buy and hold, then you can do that. So hopefully this helps you as far as learning a little bit about it. Again, the 15 is that's the number one for me. And I like how the 50 and the 180, I use those. The 180 just for long-term trend. And you can see it's below the 180, and the 15 and the 50 come below it. So for me, this is a short. And then if you go to a 5 minute, you can see it's coming down here and bouncing. It may bounce off and then I get long. I'm going to hold out a little bit and see what it does. Looking at the RSI, I like the RSI. It looks like it's probably come all the way down to the bottom, and it probably will reverse and going up a little bit. May not. So if it gets down, say 1.6409, which is below these, then it's going to keep on going. But if it stays right there, so you can draw a trend, if it don't drop below this trend line, because you have those two candles there and this candle, they're all touching. If this comes down below it, then more than likely it's going to keep going. If it comes and touches that, it's probably going to take off back up. So when you're scalping, you got to watch it. You can't walk away from it. You need to have your eyes on it all the time. Hopefully this helps you as far as learning just some different ways. I think if you watch enough videos, I talk almost about the same stuff on all of them, but I talk about it in a different way. So maybe it will help you understand. One of the videos will actually stick with you to where you'll start, seeing it better. Consistency is best, and happy trading to you. I hope you all do well. Thanks. Please like, share, and subscribe.